Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's New Year's Eve, everybody. If you're listening to this when it releases, it's New Year's Eve. It's New Year's Eve for us recording. I think I just blew Sam's mind. He got real confused. But we're almost agreement at gmail.com. We're going to talk a little bit about the year that was, maybe the year that we hope it will be, and probably do a little bit of topical what happened in the last week or so kind of stuff. So I'd like to hear Sam's thoughts on some of what Lil E and me talked about last week. So we're almost agreement at gmail.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Soon you will see the voter guide 23 for the city elections coming up. That's mayor and a couple city council members, and the city judge, who is the traffic guy that if you've ever got a traffic ticket, you have to deal with. That's on the ballot too. Apparently it's been the same guy for like 7 elections straight, and it's a 4-year election, so it's been a while. Anyway, we'll see if anybody runs against him as that thing progresses. So anyway, Almost Agreement 2022 is coming to an end. We're looking forward to 2023. We hope you have a great and safe New Year's Eve. Don't be dumb. Drink at home, or get somebody to drive you that's not drinking. I just did a PSA, like, in earnest. I'm getting old.
Oh, goodness.
Such an old man thing to do. Don't drink and drive, kids.
Be responsible.
Be responsible. Protect yourselves at all times.
Drink lots of water.
Make sure you have an action plan in case of emergency. So, yeah, so for us, the UT game is kicking off right now. So if there's random outbursts of joy or rage, that is me keeping an eye on this football game. But I don't know, man.
Do they have an extra game? How are they 11-2 and we're 10-2?
Because Clemson went to and lost the ACC championship game.
Ah, gotcha.
Or they won the. I don't know. I know they lost to South Carolina,
okay,
as we did, and then South Carolina just got beat by Notre Dame, which was a bummer.
Yeah, total bummer.
But yeah, I like to see Notre Dame lose football games. They're like Dallas Cowboys to me. Whoever they're playing against is my favorite team in the world right now. So I like to see Notre Dame lose. So anyway, UT game just kicked off. So like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on that in the background. But it's a look back. What was highlights from 22? You got any highlights right off the top of your head?
No, I was actually looking to see what all was going on. Some
I looked up
news
stuff.
sites just had like people that had passed and some other like random.
I would like to do
things.
the in memorial. We could do that here a little bit. That'd be fun to go look through and remember some of the people that died this year. Because so we since we started doing weekday shows, the showtime.
Yeah, I forgot about half of them.
To get together was like 8:05, and I make it 8:05 because me and the missus religiously watch Jeopardy. And like as Jeopardy was wrapping up, and tonight I was thinking, was Alex Trebek this year? Have they done a full year of Jeopardy without him? And I'm thinking it was not this year, but I'm not sure because it's weird like that. Because you think about like stuff that happened, like because the Amber Heard trial was this year.
Yeah,
like that was one of the big news stories of the year, and that was like what, March, when like the main part, like when the verdict inside part came down.
I don't think it was that long ago.
I thought maybe it started in March and ended in like May or June or something like that.
I don't know.
But anyway, to me, it feels like it could have been 5 years ago. Like it's just to me, I didn't really care about it anyway.
I didn't follow it.
But the idea that like that was this year, and then I was like, was January 6th this year? And I was like, well, yes, there was a January 6th this year, but not that January 6th. But the hearings,
did we just skip it this year?
All the hearings started and all that kind of stuff on that. And so, yeah, I was looking at some different stuff. And so, like, I thought one that would be funny because both of us would be terrible at it is, like, the top, I was looking for the top 5 movies of 2022.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, knowing that, like, I knew we were going to go through them, and I was like, Sam's not going to have seen any of them. I might have seen a couple. And the only list I could find was, like, the top 30. And I was like, that's too many. I don't want to go through 30 of them. So let's...
Yeah, Avatar just came out.
The best 33 films of 2022, according to timeout.com. So let me get to the front. Let's see. Number 5, Parallel Mothers. I've never even heard of it.
No, never heard of it.
It's a drama. Number 4, Aftersun.
No idea.
No idea. Number 3, The Northman. Now, this has been on my watch list. It's on Netflix.
Okay, I think I did see previews for that or something.
So that one I've heard of and I have plans of seeing. Number 2 is Top Gun Maverick. I don't give a shit. I know AC went, him and the missus went
In costume.
And then number 1, Licorice Pizza. I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember much about it. I haven't seen it. Paul Thomas Anderson delivers the sunniest film with the 70s nostalgia trip to the San Francisco Valley about a cocksure teenager trying to win the heart of a drifting 20-something. Something about... anyway, so, yeah. We've heard of...
1 and 5.
I've heard of 3 of the 5. I want to see 1 of the 5. But I heard that Licorice Pizza was pretty good, but I don't know.
I've heard the name.
So yeah, I was like, yeah, that would be funny, but then I didn't do it. And I tried to look up the top 5 TV shows.
Rolling Stone came out with like their top 100 albums of all time.
Again?
And I looked through, got all the way down to like, I guess they redo it every 10 years or so. I don't know. I got all the way down to 50, and then I couldn't find anywhere of like the 50 through 1.
You had to pay, like, is it past the paywall or something?
I don't think so. I thought it was supposed to be a free article, but I never could find it. Or maybe they just hadn't released it yet. Some of that stuff, they'll release it like once a week or whatever.
Albums?
Yeah.
There's a 500 greatest albums of all time from September of 2020.
It's list changes.
I don't know what list changes is.
Yeah. Some stupid site that somehow got top of a Google search request. No, yeah,
Dave's musical database.
I don't know, maybe it was 500, but I think I skipped through most of them. Yeah, I got down to like 50 and it wouldn't let me go any closer. I was like, wait, what the fuck?
That's lame. So, yeah, I don't know. That's, I did try to look up like some TV stuff. I don't know of any new music or best bands. Like, I'm trying to watch. The Slap was this year. There you go. There's one.
Yeah, it was one
big
thing I
news
saw.
story.
I guess in music there was the old Ticketmaster Taylor Swift debacle.
Yeah, which I think that it's a bummer that it had to be like it. Ticketmaster and Live Nation are a problem. It's just a problem that exists, and I don't know the solution per se, but it's just a problem that nobody wants to talk about, and I think needs to be discussed. I think it's a little bit of a problem of their system, but also just kind of the downside to what our technology is now, that it's not hard for someone to have 4 or 5 computers at their house at the most and be able to. I mean, I do care about people buying with the intent to sell, even though I've been that person from time to time. But that's not what I mean. The problem with Live Nation Ticketmaster to me is the way they treat the artist and the way they treat the venues. I mean, they're a broker, for lack of a better word. They put artists and venues together. They help bands put tours together, and putting those tours together by matching bands with venues that they can fill, because you don't want to put a band in a venue too big, because then you don't make as much money and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, they're really good at that part, except they take a huge cut out of the middle of that. And so the venues that are struggling to stay open don't have much choice but to deal with Live Nation when booking bands that are any national value bands. And then bands that want to do national work don't have much option other than to work for Live Nation. And so, you could have a sold out show at, $50 a ticket at a 1,000-seat venue. That's what, $50,000. And the band's getting like $5,000.
Yeah. And
the venue's getting like $5,000. And the promoter's getting a couple grand, but then Ticketmaster, Live Nation are pulling $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 out of that 50 out. I don't, but not even that being problematic about it is that there's no competition, and not only is there no competition, but anybody who tries to go around them, Ticketmaster and or Live Nation, will put the hammer on them. Like, there's reporting of venues who don't have a date going out and trying to pull something local or something like that together, or trying to book their own event at their own venue. not through Live Nation, and Live Nation saying if you book that, you will not get a Live Nation band for the rest of the year. Like literally threatening them with future dates.
Right.
Because they have a date to fill. They have an open space that Live Nation didn't fill for them. And so, like, that kind of shit, that's fucked up. That's the problem I'm talking about. Again, scalpers and aftermarket and kind of shit like that's fucked up, too. That's
that's just business doing business, right?
Tickets doing commodities. I mean, to me, it's a part of it, and I get it. It's a tough spot to put. Like we were a couple weeks ago when we were talking about it. You know, one of the number one standard rules in business that every business student gets taught in any university or even high school basic business class is you set the price of your product as high as you can sell it, and that isn't. Now, as high as you can sell it is a little bit more complicated than just, I'm going to set it for X, hoping that I can get somebody to buy it for X. It's, does my product need to be something that I sell a ton of, or is it something I can sell a few of and operate my business the way I like? So you have to balance a bunch of different parts and pieces in. But when we were talking about it, we were talking about cars. We were talking about Max's Bronco, that he's already been offered $10,000 over what he's paying for it by the dealership, who's going to sell it $10,000 over that,
right,
as a used version of it. So why isn't Ford selling it for $20,000 more than they're selling it to Max for in the first place? Because obviously that is a number that people are willing to pay for it. And so, like with the artist and like the Taylor Swift situation, like the value of her tickets is there. Now, I respect her as the artist trying to be like, well, I want my tickets to be affordable and a decent price for my fans, so I only want to sell them for $50, $75, $100 a ticket, wherever they were originally before the aftermarket jumped to $12,000 immediately or whatever it was. But she as the product has created such high demand for what she does that the value is there. And to me, if people are going to pay $10,000 for her tickets, it would make more sense to me that she gets the majority of that $10,000 instead of some weird middle person, because she's trying to be charitable to her fans, because obviously she's not. Because more people bought them more people are buying them and reselling them than people are buying them to go to the show in the first place, of the original purchasers. And so it would have been in her best interest, not just financially, but also for the good of her fans, to have priced it significantly higher. Quadrupled her original price, and that might have cut out a handful of those scalpers, and there much more likely would have been more actual fans who would have paid $400 a ticket instead of now paying thousands of dollars a ticket in the aftermarket.
Maybe. Instead
of the original 100 or whatever she was asking for. So it's a weird, again, like I said, it's a weird ism, especially with musicians and traveling art and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, she's created the demand. People want to see her show that badly that they're willing to pay $12,000 a ticket. Or somebody's dad, maybe, is willing to pay $12,000 a ticket because this little girl wants to go.
Right.
But either way, it doesn't matter. The demand's there. And at some point, that parent has a line, even if they're filthy rich, they're going to be like, no, I'm not paying $45,000 for a ticket to a show. If I'm going to pay $45,000, you get to go hang out with Taylor Swift for 3 hours in a swanky hotel room or something.
It's like, she'll probably tour again next year, okay? She's not that old yet.
Right. But I get it, though, because, last time Radiohead was in the States, we bought and went, thinking that'd probably be the last time they come to the States, period.
Yeah.
And so far, we were right. And, we ended up getting them at whatever, and Radiohead doesn't have the demand they used to have. So it was a bit more manageable, but, it's a thing. But again, I think it is a problem that there needs to be somebody needs to figure out a way to compete with Ticketmaster and Live Nation. And or some people need to just, and it needs to be.
Are they not bordering at this point on being a monopoly?
They are. They are. Like, there hasn't been.
It'll be like the FTC that would go after them.
Yeah, or FCC. No, FTC, Federal Trade Commission. Yeah, I think so. And and again, I don't know. And somewhere in that there was discussion when, and that was one of the things too that I learned about it in one of my podcasts, is that when Live Nation offered to buy Ticketmaster, it was under significant scrutiny, and there were some very specific carve-outs, for lack of a better word, that the FTC put on the new the new combination of Ticketmaster Live Nation.
Right.
They said, we'll allow you to do this, but this and this and this have to happen or can't happen depending on what the thing was. And I think one of them is you cannot punish venues for not using you to book artists.
Right.
But they've done that blatantly. And the FTC hasn't come back. And I don't know, and again, I don't know who, I guess the FTC is under the executive branch. It's a presidential, it's under
Commerce Department.
Right, but it's underneath the executive branch of government. And so it would be something that the president's office is directing, for lack of a better word, or is at least capable of directing if they want to. Yeah, and so again, I think it's one of many little studies, and I thought we already figured the answer out to this, and we're just letting it go for some reason. And I don't know why. Like, there's so many little things out there. It's like, why aren't we making a big deal of this one? Why aren't we doing better with this one? Why aren't we,
Yeah, people just pick their battles.
But like, to me, it's like if you're Biden, right, on this one in particular, I mean, who are you going to piss off? I mean, obviously you're going to piss off Ticketmaster Live Nation.
Swifties.
No, Swifties are going to love you.
Oh,
like,
that's right.
Politically speaking, like if for election purposes, I would think.
That's what he's doing. He's waiting for 2024. He's going to lay down the hammer on Ticketmaster Live Nation. No.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I wouldn't put it past any of them to make it, because it becomes an issue when it needs to become an issue. I mean, the October surprise, as it were, is a standard in politics. What was the October surprise this year?
I think there was one.
The Mar-a-Lago raid was in like June.
Yeah.
And he wasn't technically running, so that doesn't fall into the October surprise category.
Right.
You'd have to pick which race.
I don't remember any big stories.
Yeah. It would have to be one of like I'm sure there were some in some of these particular races and some of these different, especially the Senate races. I don't know. I mean, you had a couple of Herschel Walkers.
I was about to say, I was just thinking, I was like, maybe it was the vampire werewolf Herschel Walker story.
Yeah, you had a couple of the Herschel Walker, wasn't it his ex or whatever came out? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was October when his ex came out and said that he paid for an abortion for her.
There was like 2 or 3 women that came out with that claim.
No, I'm just saying I think there was at least 1 or 2 of them was in October. Not to credit or discredit their claims. I'm just saying for that race in particular, that was its October surprise. So I don't know. So this is Fox 9 KMSP, so it's some West Coast news stories of 2022. COVID-19 enters 3rd year. That's kind of a duh. The Beijing Winter Olympics were this year.
No, shit, they were.
And they were citing the very specific difference of these Beijing Winter Olympics and the Tokyo 21 Summer Games, as far as crowd and stuff like that, because of pandemic or whatever.
Yeah.
The Russian invasion. I mean, that's kind of a duh. Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. The monkeypox outbreak.
Yeah.
The Uvalde, Texas school shooting. Which to me, that's not inaccurate, but to me, that'd be the Uvalde, Texas first respond failure would be a better way to headline the story, personally. Doesn't change the fact that was what happened. But Roe Wade overturned. January 6th committee hearings start. The FBI sees the shit from Mar-a-Lago. Boris Johnson resigns. Queen Elizabeth dies. The replacement of Boris Johnson resigns like 10 days later. I don't remember Hurricane Fiona and Ian. Anything like specifically major. Like it wasn't like a Katrina or a Sandy. But Fiona and Ian were the big...
Ian had pretty widespread flooding.
Oh, it's pro-democracy protests in Iran.
Yeah.
Is the World Cup in Qatar. The Musk purchase of Twitter. The midterm elections. That's their list.
Not bad.
Yeah. So on the local one, so I get to break some Compass stuff early because their show tapes today but releases Sunday. So we tape today, release tomorrow, so I'll steal some of theirs. But I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge stuff. We had our local, our county elections, which nothing really changed. The only surprise for most people was Cat Bike winning School District 4. We had our part of the Roe v. Wade being overturned, trigger law go into effect, which is statewide, but local-ish nonetheless. We had just a couple weeks ago the finale of the golf cart borrow theft disaster kind of play out. But that was about it. I'm trying to think of this year. The year in Knoxville, Knox County.
As far as local
City stuff, we had the new police chief. We had a new superintendent come in this year. The county commission with this election, going back to that, the local county election, is now a majority female body for the first time in history, and so that was an item of note for 2022 here locally.
Still building the stadium.
Yeah. They hit the pause button for a little while because of inflationary issues. That's another one that I've seen on some of the other lists, the inflation numbers for the year being significant all year.
Getting good. I think they've gone down like a percentage and a half point.
Yeah.
But I think I saw a story today that there was a new Fed study that made the recession more likely or something.
I mean, I was thinking about like my day job, I get a cost of living annual. It's a 3% every year. We get a 3% raise every year for cost of living. I was thinking about that today. It's like, well, that's a negative 4% at least. -3, -4%, something like that.
I mean, the percentage point that they put out is across the whole swath of the economy, essentially.
I agree. I'm just saying, it is noticeable.
Like certain things have gone up exorbitantly more than other things.
Sure, but it is noticeable. Like one of the easiest ones that I've noticed locally is groceries. Like I do our grocery trip almost every week, and what used to be around $200, depending on what our meals for the week on, what meats. It's always whether we buy a bunch of meat that week or not. That's usually the big factor on whether it's the 180 to 220. If we have meat, it's in the 220 range. If we don't have a lot of meat, it's down near 180. Is now 220 to 250 every time I go shopping.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying anything different or bougier than I used to. Like, I'm not like, oh, you know what? We need this gold flake steak instead of just a regular steak. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's just, $30 to $50 more average a week in groceries. And I don't know, that's 10% that's 10% comparatively up over what it used to be to me.
Yeah.
And then gas obviously is what gas is. I have a fixed rate mortgage, so my mortgage hasn't changed, but you're out there looking for an apartment and stuff like that. Comparatively, now there's a bunch of factors. That's not an inflationary issue. I agree. It's partially, but there's a bunch of other factors in that too. Like for what you're going to get for what you will pay when you find a place versus what you had and how much you paid for what you had. That's not even close, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
Now part of that is you're not going to have a roommate like you did have, I'm assuming.
Right.
But I think there's a big shift there. And I think a lot of people feel that, but I don't know. It has been a more expensive year than normally more expensive in years past. So I don't know. Anything else from last year that I'm trying to think. There's so much stuff that happened
this year. You mean?
Yeah. Over the last 364 days. I mean, that was a crazy Christmas. The fucking cold, that was notably out of the ordinary how cold it was on Christmas. I worked Friday morning, Christmas Eve, and I got out when I was out the door in the morning, 7 degrees.
Yeah.
And when I was finishing up and getting back home around noon for the first leg of my day or whatever, it was 10 degrees. I think the high that day got up to 12 in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, it's weird when it gets that cold because They even talk about it like even the wind chill that morning or whatever was like negative 15. When you're out in it, you don't really feel much of a difference between like 0 and like 5.
Yeah. No.
Like it just feels cold.
Yeah. I don't think
That's why they warn you so much when the wind chill's that bad. They're like, hey, if you're outside for like 20 minutes and the wind chill's like negative 15, you can get frostbite in like 10 minutes.
Instantaneously. Yeah. It's pretty ruthless.
So I'm thinking, we're like, my nose is kind of getting painful.
I didn't.
It doesn't feel that cold.
I didn't drive the truck that weekend because the truck doesn't have a good blower fan, so I didn't really have a heat option, so I avoided that vehicle. But it was cold. Because I think the biggest noticeable difference when it's that cold is not how cold you feel when you're out there. It's when you get back in and how much longer it takes you to not feel cold.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it was all right, whatever. But then it's like an hour later and you're inside and you're like, God, I'm still fucking cold. It didn't help that we were out for 2.5 hours Friday morning. Our power was out. Oh. I was at work, so it didn't really bother me that much. Mm. But I got back home and the house was 55 degrees. And by Saturday morning, I woke up and the power was out Saturday morning. And that's when they were doing the rolling blackout crap.
Yeah.
But it had just gone out. Like, I think that's what woke me up was how quiet it was. Mm-hmm. All the fans, everything was off. And it's like,
something's not right.
Something's weird. So I get up and it's like, oh shit, the fucking power's out.
It did.
But the thermostat then said like 63. And so in like the 18 hours from when we had power back on Friday to when the first of the rolling blackouts hit us, we still never got back to 70, which was our set temperature. And then we were out for 15 minutes and it drops 8 degrees. And then we're on for 3 hours and off for another 15. And then it stayed on for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, apparently Burchett's looking into TVA's rolling blackouts. Because TVA put out a statement and was, we were doing everything we could.
Right, and I will. Something I hadn't considered that Scott was talking about on their podcast today was that one of the factors to this one was that it wasn't just regional. Like the whole TVA coverage area, which gets down into North Mississippi, Chattanooga.
Yeah, it's like North Alabama, North Georgia.
Right. So all the zone that TVA covers was fucking cold. And so it was maxing out what it could do to keep up with all those different utilities that run off it. But usually, when we get a snap cold like that in an area, it's not that way on the other side of the mountains. We can usually borrow some power, for lack of a better word, from, I think it's Duke Energy in the Carolinas. That's kind of the TVA for the other side of the mountains, for lack of a better word. And so usually, touchdown, woo! Sorry. So usually we can get power from surrounding parts of the grid to help kind of offset our super, super max usage that we're in the middle of. But it was also 11 degrees in the Carolinas on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was, single digits all through the Ohio Valley and stuff like that. And so all of the neighboring power systems that TVA can borrow from in emergencies were also fully taxed with their own local needs, which was a contributing factor to why this one was such a big deal.
Right.
Now, I do think it does. I do think it's worth getting looked into. I think it's worth asking some questions about. I think a lot of people had some good reactions in their concern for we get a cold snap. We get a super hot week in the summer. Are we going to lose power? Are we going to have rolling blackouts again? What happens when, as we've talked about a bunch of times on this show, Tennessee is going to this CAFE standard where it's 60 plus miles per gallon to sell a new car in the state of Tennessee. Don't know what the timeline is. I know it's not 2050. I thought 2030, but I think that's a little soon. Somewhere between 2030 and 2050. Well, if the grid can't keep up with keeping houses warm and lights on, what happens when a significantly larger percentage of cars that are on the road in the state of Tennessee are electric? How much, if the current infrastructure can keep up with that and the growth that we're seeing locally in just housing in general and the addition of electric cars to the circuit, that's a concern. And I think it's a concern worth looking into and discussing, and what do we need to do to make this not a continually growing issue. Personally, one of the things that I think we need to figure out a way to get people to self-energize. I think promoting solar on your house, if solar can take 50% of your house off the grid, that adds that back into any of the additions.
Right.
I don't know what solar would do if we had snow to go with that 7 degrees and your panels get covered.
Yeah, it would require you taking them off, but I mean, for the most part, you're still going to have sunlight. Even on cloudy days, you've still got UV.
I know, but I'm saying if it snows and your fucking panels on your roof are covered with snow.
You're going to have to clean it off, yes.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, how much, I mean, if it's 7 fucking degrees outside and it snowed 6 inches, the last thing I'm going to do is climb on my fucking roof.
You want power or not? I'm going to fucking do it.
Well, I mean, I'm plugged into the grid, so I'm going to take off the grid instead. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't.
That's where you kind of have to have the forethought to, if you're going to have to clean it out. Because, I mean, eventually, I would think even after a year or two, you're probably going to have to, like, scrub off the outside of that panel of just regular grime and dirt and dust.
What is that other Tesla thing that nobody ever talks about, which I think is the coolest solution, is their roofing tiles instead of solar panels.
Right. Yeah, I've seen those.
And so, like, it's, however many 100 tiles it take to cover your roof or whatever, but you get a hailstorm and a couple break, you just replace them, and you don't have a huge panel to replace. You just have these little, like, 12-foot or 12-inch 1-foot square tiles.
Yeah, they've had, like, bendable photovoltaic cells that have gotten better.
Yeah. And so I don't know, because I know I was talking to my neighbor about it, because he thought about it, and we were discussing it, and he was like, yeah, we were thinking about doing solar for a while.
A lot of states started taking off the incentives, because a lot of states started trying to promote solar.
Right.
They're like, hey, if you get this, we'll have this tax rebate of like $1,200 or whatever. If you spend, I don't know, like $20,000 probably for a small or decent system or whatever, how much it is.
Yeah, they're not cheap. I mean, they talk.
But a lot of states have taken off those incentives, so a lot of people haven't really had the encouragement to buy it. And like, yeah, I'll save money, in 10 or 15 years, but that tax incentive's gone, so I don't really have much up front.
And I believe some of the laws changed on the grid being required to how much they're required to pay you when it goes out.
Uh-huh.
I think that was another one that happened too. Because and on a business standpoint, if you're KUB, I understand why you don't want people to go to solar on their homes, especially if in the case of, and for whatever reason my meter starts going backwards for a little bit, that period of time that it goes backwards doesn't just deduct from my amount; it pays me a multiple of what I bring in at. So if it costs me $1 a kilowatt in, if I send a kilowatt out, they got to pay me $1.50 or something like that. Because we've talked about it in like the big grid thing, where if TVA is borrowing from Duke, they have to pay Duke a significant sum,
right,
when they take from neighboring grids.
Yeah, it's happened where power companies have colluded and essentially had brownouts in their area and had to buy power from neighboring areas, and all of a sudden, like, jacked up the cost of just because they had to buy power from the neighboring power company.
And so,
like, we had to borrow energy, so it's like 5 times more expensive.
And some of that back and forth was that it was a cost advantage to produce enough power on a small home system to outpace your use and push back into the grid.
And we've had grid issues for years.
I'm just saying, but like it seems to be that is such a. It feels like a no-brainer almost. Like, I understand it's expensive to install, but as far as grid stability, having more small, clean power stations to support input to the grid would be a safer, more stable version of.
Yeah, 'cause you would think it would cost them less on kind of general maintenance as well.
Right. Right, it keeps them on the... Well, I mean,
they're going to have less transformers blowing from, peak demand at different times.
Right. But, I mean, KUB, though, doesn't... they obviously have tons of equipment as far as lines and all that kind of stuff, but they don't do any direct power generation. And so it may be cheaper for them to maintain their stuff and take that power generation as a purchase from TVA than having to deal with all the administrative parts of dealing with 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 homes that are pushing and pulling and doing all that. I don't know. Somebody that understands grid systems better would need to sit in with us and explain that part.
Well, I will say, as far as just like energy production, there's a lot of times to where those plants are producing enough energy to meet that demand, but there's also times where they can't really, just flip a switch and shut that coal furnace off or whatever, shut the...
They can shut the turbine off, but the coal or whatever's powering the turbine is going to keep burning and doing its thing. And so,
but essentially, they're just hardlining power directly into the ground.
Right.
Essentially,
Which I think
just getting rid of power.
Which I think in all versions of all the energy conversation I think that's the number one issue across the board is the storage of energy. Is okay. Well, we don't have the demand right now. We can keep this thing still running.
Right.
We might as well keep it running because the steam is being produced by the coal or the nuclear or whatever the thing is producing the steam. We might as well keep this turbine running and let it fill up that battery. And then later in the evening or whenever the power starts, the demand starts raising, we can start pulling out of that battery instead of having to kick one on, kick one off, kick one on, kick one off. Because I got a buddy of mine who works for TVA, and that's what he does. He goes to, I think he was at out in Lenore City at, I guess, the Loudoun Dam or whatever. He'd sit in an office and had a computer in front of him, and he'd watch the thing, and he'd have a list. And I was like, oh, turn this one on. All right, we need to turn this one off. You got paid fat money for it, too.
Right.
But, I mean, and I'm sure there was more to it than it was just, the computer says turn it on, turn it off, because the computer could do it automatically if it was that simple. But,
right.
I'm not trying, I am jokingly downplaying the job. But, it seems like it's pretty much that. You have, 20 turbines, and when the demand is there, you turn all 20 on, and when the demand's not, you turn them off until you're right there on the edge of what the demand wants. And that's what you do.
And that's where some of the kind of solar and general energy technology is still kind of lacking, is that retention of.
It's the storage. Yeah, I think
it's be a storage
no matter
capacity.
what it is, it's a storage one. Because whether it's hydro and the dam systems we have around here,
right.
Every one of these dams has however many turbines in them, right. But they don't run them all constantly.
That's the thing. Like most of our power is all essentially still just steam derived.
Right.
Whether it's coal or nuclear, you're still creating steam
right.
to turn a turbine.
You're burning something to heat water,
right?
To turn it to steam, to turn a fan,
right? Outside of solar and wind, that's where you're getting just direct power, DC power.
Hydroelectric's direct.
You're using water to turn the force of water to turn a turbine,
which is
you're not heating it to produce steam.
Right.
Steam pressure.
I was adding to your list. Is
gotcha.
All of your steam plants have some sort of fuel to heat the water to steam them, but your non-steam version, being turbine, the turbine gets turned by something else.
Okay.
Whether it's direct wind, direct water, or I don't know how the photocells exactly work. Magic.
I think wind may use more of a what's it called? A dynamo.
Sure.
Essentially, it's just like a crank that creates energy.
It's a turbine. But it's a turbine. Turbine. So you have your little emergency weather radio, right?
Right.
Has a little crank on the side.
All right. But that's not a turbine.
Yeah, it is. Your arm is the turbine. The arm that sticks out of the thing that you turn is a turbine.
No.
Okay, it's not a turbine in the sense that it has fan blades on it, like a steam plant would. But
your arm is not the turbine in that scenario.
Well, your arm is the wind or whatever. The arm that sticks out that you turn.
We're
is
getting
the
there.
turbine.
We're almost in agreement.
The arm that sticks out that you spin is the turbine, because inside that arm is a set of magnets, and around that set of magnets is coiled copper. And when you spin the magnet inside the coiled copper, that produces electricity. That is the core of an electric generator.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
In every way, shape, or form.
I think there's a difference between like a turbine and it's a dyno or dymo. Dyno.
I mean, other than
if I had one of those, that's what like they actually called it on that radio.
A hand turbine radio.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
they didn't call it a hand turbine radio. No,
a hand crank radio.
Yeah,
a hand crank emergency radio, probably
basically,
something like that. I would say like I don't, like I said, I don't know how solar works specifically, but for the general production of electricity,
it's just DC power basically.
Right.
But you're having to use like an inverter, I think, to
Right.
take it from DC to AC.
right? Which all power is generated in DC. It's distributed in AC because AC works better over distance.
Right.
It loses less strength over distance, and then it comes in your house, and it comes out of your walls as AC. But almost every single thing you plug in has an inverter on it that turns it to DC. Everything electronical that you work with normally is DC based.
Yeah.
Some fans and stuff like that aren't. Some fans are, because they take the pulse of the AC and they just push the magnet, push. So, yay! Basic electronics,
Science.
basic electronics, people. But yeah, again, the core being the conservation of produced electricity is, I think that's the number one issue at play for any conversation we want to have about energy, the future of energy. The fusion thing that's happening right now scares the shit out of me, but it's also kind of exciting. Lasers and
Promising.
yeah, and it's also could be devastating.
Right.
We're producing black holes, people, or suns. I guess they're suns.
Yeah.
Little suns in a house. Everybody's house will have a little sun back in the basement somewhere.
Pretty cool.
What could possibly go wrong?
That's right.
Or under the hood of your car, you have just a little sun. It's a little sun. It's the size of a marble. Nothing major.
It's okay. Just don't touch it.
Right. Or
And
go
don't
anywhere
look
near it.
Don't look directly at it.
Don't go near it without a lead vest on.
Right.
So on and so forth. So, yeah. I learned something today that there is all the shelters have a white flag rule when it gets a certain cold outside.
No, Carm does that.
Yeah. And so that is that there are people whom, for one reason or another, Carm or the different shelters will not let them in. Like
All right. I think if you're under the influence or have weapons on you at the
Right.
time,
or they're banned for previous
previous
altercations or
instances,
something like
yeah.
that. All of that is off the table on certain coldnesses, which that went through. And at least as of right now, there's been no discovery of any frozen dead bodies. Which is
it's one of their worries about Buffalo right now.
Which I
don't know. It was so bad. Like I think the past 3 or 4 days, like the National Guard, like the city's implemented like a no driving rule, like whatsoever. Like even if you got to go to the pharmacy, they're like, do not drive. They've got the National Guard in there, pretty much like shut down all the roads. Yes, they're like you can walk there, but you can't drive there.
Yeah, that's
They're basically trying to keep the roads clear for
emergency, whatever.
emergency and first responders that need to get out and move.
Don't miss that shit. Don't miss that shit at all. No, I didn't have Buffalo style shit any time that I lived in Wisconsin. But
Yeah.
I remember one year.
Those areas are more equipped to deal with it, but
Right.
at the same time, it's still devastating.
I remember one year, probably in actual snow, we had probably like 1.5 feet. But when they came and plowed the roads and we shoveled the driveway and stuff like that, the corner of our driveway where our mailbox sat was like 8 feet.
Yeah.
And we dug it out into this big like igloo shelter snowball castle, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, up in Ohio, like it's commonplace where they get the lake effect snows that everyone's got those big, just pieces of plywood. And I don't know if they take it down there in the summertime and only put it up in the wintertime, but they're right there next to your mailbox. So when the snow plows come, your mailbox doesn't get covered and it actually blocks your mailbox from getting all the snow
I don't ever see that.
piled up against it.
I remember we it was hit and miss. Not everybody did it. Most people did it that were on like the bigger streets. Neighborhoods didn't do it as much, but the bigger streets, almost everybody had like a 3-foot like plastic stem with a reflector on top off the front of their mailbox. So it was like their mailbox flag, but it wasn't the actual flag to the mailbox, but it was like that positioning straight up.
Right.
So
Let them know exactly where it
right.
was.
So the snowplow wouldn't take your mailbox out.
So the snowman knew where it was, but he had to like dig it out to get to the front of your mailbox.
Right, no, not for the post office, no, but for the plow guy to not take your mailbox out driving down your street.
Gotcha.
Now, it's going back to that's a good subset of things to talk about. The mailman. still, last night I got mail at 9:15.
I've seen them out at night, like still doing deliveries.
That's fucking crazy. Like last week, totally get it. The week going into Christmas, crazy amount of shit getting out. There's are they having the same staffing issues as everybody else? I suppose.
There was a story a week or two ago about one of the branches like having to put out a statement that they weren't closed. I guess people had tried to show up, and it was kind of that weird like after hours thing that happened. I think maybe earlier this summer. There were some people that reported that they had tried to go to different branches at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was signs on the door saying, due to staffing, we've closed early. And they were like, no, we didn't. Like, Postmaster came out and was like, no, we didn't shut down any things. I don't know if anybody took...
Nobody had a picture of the sign on the door?
I don't know if anybody took pictures, if it actually went that far.
Huh.
Or if it was, USPS trying to save face.
I mean...
But I think the most recent one was some people were saying that in certain areas they didn't get their mail that day or whatever.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you one of the things.
But they're still driving one of those tiny ass trucks. I mean, you can't fit much in there. Because the other place where we worked at, like, he picks up a shit ton of packages. We damn near fill up his truck with just him picking up what we've got ready for him.
Well, but I mean, there's a problem.
And they're still doing a lot of Amazon stuff.
Yeah. I mean, from stuff I've heard on it is that Amazon's the only reason they're still alive, because Amazon has such huge contracts with them. But like one of the problems I had, like I applied, I went through the process, I think I got hired technically. It was like a third interview, which was like a half training day kind of thing, and I was like, this is bullshit. So you're using an interview as training? It was like you got to drive your own vehicle. I was like, okay, that'd be one thing if you could just drive your own vehicle. You don't have to have a specialty vehicle. It's like they don't hire. I was like, no, I don't know that I have a vehicle for this. I can't afford to buy a vehicle just for this job.
They give you like a magnet you throw in your car, give you some decals,
lights and stuff or whatever, but you still have to have a right-hand drive.
Yeah, that's right.
You have to go you have to go. And so the job of a mailman, as it was taught to me in my interview, training, whatever you want to call it, was you go in you have a route. And it could be multiple routes. It could be a single route. Depends on the number of houses and businesses or whatever. But you have a route. And you have this little sorting station that's in the post office. And the trucks come in and dump off boxes that are already pre-sorted, that knows it's your route. Then you have local stuff that's in a box that it's not pre-sorted to your route. It's pre-sorted that it's on Route 7 per se. But it's not sorted by house or by actual address. And so you get you've seen the white boxes, those things. So you get a couple of those, however many it is total, full, and you go to your little sorting station, and you have these little sorting things, and it's all these little slots. Like this little kind of bookshelf thing with all these little slots, and each slot is an address. And you go through your basket and slot it all out, and then you break them all down and rubber band them into stacks of streets or however it goes in your address. And so you go and you get the stack, and this is this house, and this is this house. You keep going down the road. Keep dropping them in, grab next sack. And then you put little flyers in there that says package for this house, and that's how you know to get in the back and grab this Amazon package or whatever to add to the rest of that house. And so you do all that, you sort that all in, you throw it in the back of for me at least, it was my own vehicle.
Right.
And then you go out and do it, and that's your day. And it's like, that's a lot of work. I get it. It all makes sense functionally, except for my vehicle's part. Like, that's where I drew the line. Like, I was like, everything about this seems like hard work. In the summer it's going to be hot, in the winter it's going to be cold. You've got to be out there with the window down all the time. You're subject to it's like, all right, I'm on board with this, except for the my vehicle part. And if that's continued to be the case, no wonder they can't find people to work there. Because I was 100% on board. The pay was decent. Everything was okay with me to take this job, except for my own vehicle part.
I'm surprised they didn't have you start out in like the sorting room. A lot of places like that.
No, because it's the whole job. You sort your own route. So, like, theoretically, if you wanted to, you could just throw your buckets unsorted and sort them on the go if you wanted to. It's like, that's up to you. Whatever. And so
But in a lot of those places, like, you can't start out like as the driver. Like UPS, FedEx, you start in the warehouse before. Like,
Right,
like
well,
UPS is like 2 or 3 years or some shit like that. You work in the warehouse before you get to be a driver.
The post office model is you sort your own and you deliver your own. And you drive your own until you've been here long enough.
Guess you can't blame it on anybody else. Like,
I mean,
you're the one that sorted it. You're the one that delivered it.
You know, and to me, one of the things that was attractive to me is the job part of it. This is your route. All the mail that goes to your route will be dumped in your station first thing in the morning. Your job is to get all of that mail to where it goes.
Right.
However you want to go about doing that, however you want to run your route, whichever direction, like, do you want to run up this street, down that street, around this street? You want to take a left here? You want to take a right there? Your game. Whatever you want to do to get the job done. Because I'm a big fan, especially in stuff like that, of being paid by production. Your job is to get the mail out. I don't care if it takes you 3 hours or 10 hours. This is what I want to pay you for the job.
Yeah.
And I like that premise if it's set up reasonably. And so again, like everything I liked about it, except you have to drive your own vehicle. Now I took another job that just destroyed my vehicle, but I didn't have to pay a couple $1,000s to make my vehicle functional to do the job, to subsequently destroy it for the job.
You get in your light, you should be able to just go against traffic the whole time.
I mean, but yeah, my clutch is going out. Could you imagine trying to drive a mail route in a manual?
Right.
I would have murdered my clutch years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I've made my clutch last. Like, that truck is bound for the scrap heap. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm going to take it down for scrap weight. I mean, I'm going to do that, or I'm going to try to drive it to Todd Russell and get in a fight with him. Get him.
It's worth $55.
Which
I was telling somebody your story the other day.
Every time I've tried those motherfuckers, they give me some
like,
bullshit.
oh, you want to do that? Like, oh, sorry, it's only on these select models that thing applies for.
Oh, yeah. It's fucking bullshit. It's like, no, you say clearly. It doesn't matter. $5,500 trade-in. It's like...
That's only if you buy a brand new $50,000 car.
Yeah. Well, that was a different one with Nissan. That was, we'll double your Kelly Blue Book.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, but that one had the fine print if you buy a fucking Armada or one of their big-ass SUVs.
Gotcha.
And I was in there trying to buy a Versa.
Right.
For like $12,000.
Yeah, that's the story I was trying to tell somebody.
Yeah. I mean, it's still bullshit. Same kind of bullshit. It goes back to that car. Like, I'm so frustrated with the car market right now. It doesn't make sense.
It's finally getting better.
I don't like, again, like, I think this plug-in hybrid idea is the solution for me, regardless of whether I keep the day job or not. I just think it makes sense. The benefits of an electric, in that for the most part you're not running on gas, but when the shit hits the fan, you've got a 10-gallon gas tank that you can get down the road from wherever with.
Right.
Seems like a win.
It's a small engine that you're still getting decent gas mileage on.
Right. I mean, it's a small car anyway because it's built to basically run on electric. I mean, they do it with the Prius. They do it with the RAV4. They don't do it with the Highlander. They only do it with their small SUV, not their midsize.
Really?
Yeah. Now they do their Highlander. They have a hybrid, but not a Prime. So far. But I don't like. Apparently, Linux. It's a new electric car company that launched this week.
I'm not familiar.
Everybody's excited about it because it's going to fuck up Tesla. Because fuck Elon Musk and his Twitter bullshit.
Rivion's out there and ain't doing shit.
I've looked at them too. They're not good. But I mean,
they look ugly as sin.
But I was looking at they are a little not all the electric cars for the most part. The F-150 Lightning's not bad.
New Prius looks very nice.
Yeah, they don't look bad.
I don't know if they still make a wagon or not. That was one that I thought about for a while. I was like, ooh, they make a wagon.
Or a hatch. Or a sport hatch or whatever they call it.
No, they had a straight wagon for a while. I don't know if they still made it.
You know what I saw today? I haven't seen it forever. Was the what's the old police cruiser?
Crown Vic?
Yeah, it's a Crown Vic wagon. I saw one of those today in a parking lot. It's a Crown Vic station wagon, like old school station wagon, long as fuck. It's like, holy shit, I haven't seen one of those in a while.
I think they ever made those. They used to make there was a Taurus wagon.
No, this was a Chevy or a Buick or whatever. Long fucking hood. I think I don't know if it was a Crown Vic, but it was that same.
Crown Vic's Ford.
It was that same body style that was very popular in that era.
Gotcha. Trying to think what it could be.
Boom! That motherfucker. It wasn't that motherfucker per se.
Huh.
But that's, yeah, it's a Crown.
Crown Vic wagon.
Yeah. Told you. Calling me crazy. Anyway.
I'd never seen such a thing.
I've seen, they used to be around, man. I remember seeing them, a bunch of them. But yeah, I don't know. So are you going to buy a new car or are you looking for a used car?
At this point, I'm more tempted to get a brand new one, just because some of the used that I've looked at are not too much of a price difference when you're getting a.
That's where I was. I mean, that was my whole thing with the 4Runner. Like I started looking around, like kind of getting the gist of what I want, like what I wanted out of the vehicle. I wanted something that could pull a trailer if I needed to. I wanted something that was 4-wheel drive, so that I could take it hunting and stuff, and not have to worry about getting too crazy. Like it's not going to get super crazy, but. I wanted something that would fit the whole family. I wanted something that we could take on road trips and it'd be comfortable. And I kept coming back to the 4Runner, and it's like 2017 4Runner, $42,000.
Yeah.
2019 4Runner, $44,000. 2022, brand ass new, $51,000. Huh. I can't justify saving $4,000 for a 30,000, 40,000 mile car.
I mean, one of the cars I'm looking at, I literally saw like a $2,000 or $3,000 price difference between a 1 or 2 year old with 20 or 30,000 miles versus brand new.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about like almost $10 grand difference.
No, I would say like 2000. I think I saw 2019 for 47, and I think tax, title, all the shit included. Mine was 52.
Right, I got you.
Yeah, I think mine was. I think I bought mine for 49, and very strong air quotes on bought mine for 49.
Right.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It's a weird ass market. I don't get it. Like it's on the list of the number of things that I can't put my head around.
It's one of those industries that I hate to say took advantage of, but saw what people were wanting and were able to.
But they're not.
Kind
that's
of
just
adjust the prices.
But they're not, because like the used car market, yes, the used car market, because that's 100% market driven. Because you and I. If we have the car and we're selling the car for as much as we can get it for, right? Like if I was...
No, even some of the new ones. Is if they wanted to kind of preserve it, because the people still want to be able to buy new cars, and they're like, well, hey, we don't have very many, but, if you go ahead and put this down and you'll agree to buy it for this, like, we'll order you one. It's going to take, a month to get here.
But still, even with that, it's not enough to make sense, because... so in my example of like 2019 with 25,000 miles on it.
Part of it was still the supply chain issue, because it was also costing manufacturers money with higher steel cost, higher
right. But the new car market wasn't. That's at least as in my experience of it, the new car market wasn't adjusting up in price logically, because if a 2-year-old with 25,000 miles on it is pretty close, like 10% or less close to a brand new one with zero, like literally 0 miles on it. Like I think it had 4 miles on it when I bought it.
Yeah.
Because it was right off the truck, right out of the dealership. Like it was still, like when I bought it, I'd test driven a different one, and he's like, this one just came off the trailer. You want to go look at it? I was like, yeah. And I go look at it, and he's like, our detailers haven't got to work on it yet. Just so you know. It's like, okay, what does that mean? So we go, he gets the key, we open it up, there's plastic on everything, there's cardboard boxes in places, like all the mats were in a box in the trunk instead of on their place. It's like right. It was literally right off the truck.
Right.
And it was $4,000 more than a used one. If the market made sense to me, Toyota would have been rolling their price up off the lot. Because, like you were saying, it doesn't make sense to buy a used one because I can get a new one for just a little bit more.
Right, but with the availability, sometimes when people need a car, they need a car. So they're more willing to buy that used one for about the same price, just to be able to get something that day versus may or may not have that.
That's what, like, where is the need? That's the other part I don't get. And I'm not. This isn't an attack on you. This is me trying to the big picture here is like, how is there such high demand for vehicles right now? Why does everybody want
cars break?
But this isn't. This seems different right now than it used to be. Do you agree with that part? Like 5 years ago, when you were in the 10 years ago when you were in
what do you mean
the car game? Like it seems different now.
How?
It feels like there are more people trying to get cars than there are cars. So the difference is there's less cars, right? That's the supply chain problem.
As far as new cars, yes.
Right. So it's different now. And that's the difference. It's not that more people are wanting cars. It's the same general number of people are wanting cars. It's there's less cars available.
Extent, yeah.
And that's what rolled up the used car market. Because not because demand went up, but because supply was down.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Then why? Okay, so if you're to say a little bit of both, where does the demand come from?
I think it was more so I think it was less so a higher demand and more so on the lack of inventory of. So I think on one hand you had a supply
chain issue.
On one hand you had some people that were less willing to trade their car in because they were either trying to tighten their budget and they're like, hey, we're going to look at getting a new car. We're not going to do that. So you had less used cars kind of going back onto the market as far as trade-ins or just general person-to-person type sales. So I think there's a little bit less of that, with some people having to tighten their budgets. Other people that had enough money were looking to spend money, got a little bit more of stimulus checks money and they were looking to spend. Didn't want to spend it all on the house and wanted to look at getting a new car.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of me. I mean, that's where I was in it.
Right.
More or less.
So, I mean, you've got different consumers. You're looking at totally different markets.
I guess it's just
you have those small chunk of people that are used to either releasing a car every couple of years or buying a new car every 2 or 3 years.
It seems to be that like there should be like, again, this goes with that stupid Prime thing. Like with my attempt to buy or my want to get and I'm looking for and I'm shopping at and I'm trying to find what I want to get and whatever. It does not seem to me that the manufacturer side of the market is trying to fill the gap, which would make sense if they were rolling prices up with it, but they don't seem to be rolling prices up substantially. So like, okay, it's like, okay, shit, there's demand, right? So whatever the company is that I own, I sell Legos. Legos is not a good example because it's so specifically, awesomely unique. I sell glasses, right? Drinking glasses. Like, I manufacture and I sell drinking glasses. That's what I do. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but all of a sudden people want more glasses. Now I have two options. I can make more glasses to meet that demand and keep the price about the same. Or I can roll the price up and maximize my profit off of the demand that is. I don't see either one of those things happening in the car market right now, in the new car market. I don't see Ford, Toyota, any of those guys ramping up production, trying to maximize production to get more cars out. I
don't think they're doing it to a drastic extent, but you've still got dealers that are doing their normal dealer thing and making as much money as they can on a car. Making it feel like, I'm going to go talk to my sales manager and see, like, okay, I didn't think he was going to do this, but don't tell anybody else. But he said he'll do it for this price.
Whether they're doing that or not, the dealership is a different animal in the thing because you still get stuck with...
No.
Dealerships are still...
Who sets the final price?
Theoretically, the dealership.
Theoretically? Or actuality?
When Toyota...
What waffling is there on that? Who gives you the final price when you go into where do you buy a car from?
When Toyota Knoxville,
yeah,
the actual dealership locally, whatever. But when Toyota National runs an ad that says we're doing Tacomas for $45,000, MSRP, that's their way of qualifying the fact that they don't set the final price.
What does MSRP stand for?
Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price.
Okay, what's the second word in there?
Suggested.
Okay, so when they run an ad, they don't put fine print on the bottom of that ad at all, do they?
And there's no and there's no fine print on Toyota Knoxville to, I don't know, follow some of the national ads to some level. They're not required to as part of their partnership with Toyota National.
Correct.
Toyota Knoxville can just sell it for whatever the fuck they want to. They don't have to follow it. Really?
Yes.
They have zero obligation to follow anything that Toyota International, I guess is the correct word, wants them to do?
I mean, if there's a Toyota-wide like rebate on, occasionally they ran things for like teachers and first responders or brand new buyers, whatever.
Ford has a military one right now.
Right. So that, yes. Outside of that, it is the dealer's discretion as to what they want to sell that car for.
Okay.
MSRP is exactly what it is.
I understand what MSRP
suggested
is.
retail price.
But you don't think that there's at least some implied obligation, whether it's in
No.
writing or not?
No. In writing between whom?
That would be between Toyota Knoxville and Toyota, whoever distributes the Toyotas to them.
I highly doubt they have a contract in place that says you will sell this car for at least this. Because time and time again, some dealerships, in order to meet their quota at the end of the month, will sell cars below MSRP.
Sure. But it's still, I would have a hard time imagining.
So they're breaking contract right there in your assumption.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. If they've got to sell a car for at least MSRP.
Fine, then not
so
in
if they can't go over, they can't go under.
Then not in writing, and no, I didn't say that at all, but not in writing, it is implied that when Toyota runs an ad during the Super Bowl,
right,
that this car, even though they say the words MSRP, because technically they can't force the dealership to sell it to them, wherever, blah, 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 there's still an implied need for them to say, we've got to get pretty close to that MSRP, because that's going to piss customers off.
It's all going to depend on package, and it depends on location.
It does.
It's all location,
and
location,
state taxes,
location.
and all sorts of fun bullshit that goes into it.
Right.
Anyway. Okay. All right.
No.
Fine. Whatever. Back into the core point of it. It still doesn't seem that car manufacturers at large are trying to do either of the quote normal business practices in a market that we seem to be in. We seem to be in a high demand market, and either you keep production down so that you can drive price up, which they're not doing, or you increase production so that you can sell to that demand and get your margin per sale. They're not doing either, and that's what I'm confused by. It does not seem like anybody is trying to boost production to catch up to the demand.
I think it has caught up.
Do what?
I think it has caught up.
No, it hasn't, obviously, because the car that I want to buy is not available. Max's car that he bought 2 years ago now, he still hasn't taken delivery on.
You're looking at very specific high-demand vehicles.
I don't know that they're high. I don't know the specifics of the demand of the one that I want.
Hybrids in general are still on back order.
Okay, but still,
just because those general vehicles specifically are in high demand.
Okay, so
the one the Max wants, yes, is in high demand all across the US.
Are they maximizing? I don't know the answer to this because I don't know somebody at Toyota that can answer it. From the salesman, at least, he doesn't think that Toyota manufacturing is trying hard to catch up because they are taking 2 deliveries of prime cars a month. I think is what he said. They get 2 a month, and I think it's 1 Prius and 1 RAV4.
Right, they're spreading them out. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 Toyota dealerships within like a 50-mile radius of us.
Fine, they're spreading them out. That's fine. But if you're trying to produce to catch up to demand, it would be 2 this month, 3 next month, 4 the month after that, 5 the month after that. You would up production. Maybe not month to month, not in that exact time frame, but it would be that the salesman should be able to say to me, because
assuming they're pumping out about as much as they can.
If I were to go in, if I were the salesman and I knew, I don't know, maybe it's the selfishness of the salesman that is a possibility to play, but if I knew that you wanted this car, you had this specific combination, maybe not color and stuff like that, but the base that you wanted was the prime version of this vehicle, and you wanted to get that thing, then if I knew that there is some coming next month and the month after that, and it was increasing in, if the availability was going to increase, I'd be like, yeah, man, I don't have any for you now, but we will have them soon.
Right.
I wouldn't say to you, well, they're not sending any. The next 15 that we get are already bought. I mean, I would say that to you because I want you to buy something else, maybe. But if I was a decent human being, I would say, we're getting them here soon. They're making more. They're trying to get production to catch up to the demand. Because
there's the option to pre-order and reserve. Doesn't guarantee you time frame. I mean, they could probably give you, if they're honest, they could probably give you an honest time frame.
I just feel like if I were the salesman and I felt like this was the red line for you as the buyer, which I clearly stated to the salesman when I was doing it.
Well, they know most people aren't that hard lined on that they're willing to waffle on a different color or a different package or whatever.
And I'm sure you're correct, but
that's where being a good salesperson will steer you towards something else.
When the customer is clear about what they want, and if you knew, because in your sales meetings and stuff like that, they told you that these are the things coming down the line. If you knew that the thing that I want was coming down the line with a real availability, not in a pre-order sense, it's like I don't want to pre-order it. When I buy a car, I want to buy the fucking car and I want it. Right? That's the shopping experience in buying cars for me. I go in, I say, I want this car, I'm going to leave with it.
It's not the world in which we live in now. I mean, even just general electronics, you go out nowadays. Like,
if you were a salesman,
there's no guarantee that it's going to be there in stock.
But if you were the salesman and you knew that it was coming and that the production was trying to catch up to the demand, you would explain that to me. Because that would keep me on the hook to come get it when it's ready, when it's available.
Maybe.
Instead of me saying, fuck it, I'm not going to buy a car from you at all.
That may or may not keep you on the hook. That may discourage you and push you towards someone else.
Well, but you already lost me in either way, so you might as well give me the honest answer that gives you a possibility of keeping me, as opposed to the car that you're asking for is never coming. Realistically, that's the feel that I got off the salesman. What you're asking for is not going to be an option. So pick something else. Well, I'm not picking something else. That is the minimum of what I'm willing to do with you guys. At some point, if the truth is that it's coming down the line, the salesman's right play would be to tell me the truth that it's coming down the line.
Right.
But he didn't tell me that. So either he doesn't know that, which is a possibility, or it's not actually happening.
Or he was being straight up honest with him, like, if this is really what you want, like, you're going to be waiting a while.
Right, which that leads to the conclusion that I feel like is the reality, is that the production is not ramping up to meet the demand, because clearly from the salesman point of view and mine, the demand for this plug-in hybrid series is high, but production is not trying to catch up. Why isn't production trying to catch up? That's the whole point of what I'm trying to get to in the conversation here. And I don't expect you to know the answer. You don't work for Toyota, but that's what I'm saying about this feels weird to me. It doesn't make sense. It's the same thing that I complain about in the housing conversation. It's the same thing I complain about in the employing conversation. It doesn't seem to add up. We talk about having...
You make it sound like it's an easy fix.
I
mean, I'm assuming they only have a certain number of factories that produce those specific vehicles.
Okay, so if you produce...
And you're acting like they're just sitting around like, we're just going to do 3 today. Like, oh, they need like 20? We're just going to keep doing 3 a day.
But I would think it would be pretty obvious at some point, and maybe this is where my failure is. But I think it would be obvious at some point.
I would guarantee you that they are having that conversation and trying to figure out a ramp. But it's not as easy as just flipping on a light switch. You can't just easily just build another factory to produce these vehicles.
I acknowledge that.
To be able to give each dealership in America more than 2 a day, because you increase that by 1 times 5,000. I think that's a conservative estimate of Toyota dealerships
in America.
In America,
a month, so it'd be 5,000 more cars out of the factory a month.
Right.
I think that would be a large number, and that would be a significant shift in production.
Okay.
But these are the cars that people want, and these are the cars that people will pay for. You put forth the effort to make that happen. What are you producing that isn't selling? Like, you still have lots full of fucking cars. I mean, I was there. There was cars all over the place.
When I drive by Toyota in Knoxville,
no, it's very unclear.
Their lot looks pretty empty.
It's very unclear, like, who's in the shop. Like, what are shop cars and what are whatever, and stuff like that. It's a little confusing. And it's not a very...
division between used car lot and the new car lot.
Right, and it's a very weird...
They purposely mix them together.
Yeah, it's very confusing exactly what's what in the lot part of it. But...
Look at all these Hondas we have next to the Toyotas.
It is weird. They're building what are they building right across the street from there right now? They're building a couple different things.
Thought it was like a new Toyota thing, because they got their new... like detail giant shop or whatever a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, it's their detail and their custom shop. That's who put my running boards on.
I haven't seen any signs to see.
I saw the sign. I don't remember what it is. I drive by there a couple times.
Phillips and Jordan moved across the street, just up the street from there.
It's a weird company.
It is. It's like disaster relief.
Yeah. That's a good company. That's a good business to be in because apparently disasters are all day, every day, all over the fucking place.
Yeah, for some reason, that was one of our accounts. And for some reason, they had a bunch of like hot sauce that we were sending to these people. And I always thought it was like the oddest thing that you have like, some kind of like weird weather or environmental disaster, and we're sending them bottles of hot sauce.
I mean,
it's the last thing you need when you're lacking
when
clean water.
When you're eating shitty food and all you get is just whatever. Just give me some hot sauce and make it. I don't think I took most of what we were doing for them was corporate stuff. Like it wasn't stuff that they were putting out to.
We'd occasionally send like pallets of hot sauce or whatever to wherever they were at.
I mean,
it was kind of like uniforms for them as well, the employees.
Yeah, but I would think it's. I don't know. I would think that would be a nice thing to have in a disaster zone. Not top of the list thing to have, but when you're eating oatmeal every day, I don't care. Throw some hot sauce on it. Make it something.
That sounds gross.
Yeah, hot sauce is great. I love hot sauce. I got hot sauce for Christmas. I got all sorts of Star Wars dorky stuff for Christmas. I didn't get any Packers gear this year. Now that I think about it,
Never cared for hot sauce.
Depends.
I do like a little bit of cayenne pepper, but
it depends. I've had a few that are just too much. Like there's a line somewhere.
Yeah, I don't get like
the
super hot stuff. I mean, it's just like burning off your taste buds.
Yeah, there's a line, but I like a little like. I have like in the little centerpiece to our kitchen table. We have napkins. We have salt, pepper. I have crushed red pepper and a bottle of hot sauce. It's always on the table. Depending on the meal and whether adding a little spice to the meal is hot sauce or crushed red pepper, it just depends on the specifics of the meal. So, like if it's an Asian dish, like if it's rice and stuff, it's crushed red pepper.
Chili flakes.
No. I like the Zatarans. Not Zatarans. Tony Chachere's. The green can.
Tony Chachere's, yeah.
Yeah, my little man likes that too, which is awesome. He's getting into the spicy stuff. That's my dude. I like to do wings on him every once in a while. Nobody else likes wings in this house. Can't get that. Can't quite get that hurdle over yet.
Care for myself.
I like wings.
I don't mind like a nice, like meaty wing, but I hate like the ones you get at 75% of the bars or whatever. And it's just like,
see, those are like I like the little ones. The smaller, the better.
I mean, I feel like it's a lot of work for so little.
Yeah, it is. But there's a different I feel like if the smaller the wing, like the sweeter the meat, man. It's a little more.
I mean, you're tasting more of the sauce.
Maybe
it's basted in something.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I just like them better.
Yeah.
You don't have to cook them as long. The outside doesn't get as crisp. Tennessee scores again.
Yippee skippy.
I want him to run it up. Need some points. I double gambled this game. As soon as it came out, which was like December 2nd, was when the lines came out. It was Tennessee was the underdog. They were 7-point underdog, and the total was 66. I took them both. I took Tennessee +7 and over 66. As of kickoff, it was Tennessee was down to +5, so I won that bet. I didn't win the bet, but I won the gamble of taking the bet early, because if I'd done the same bet today, I would have less help to win the actual bet.
Huh.
But the over/under dropped like 4 points. Like the over/under dropped. The over dropped the same amount as, or actually more than, my plus did. So the way the game's turning out right now, it looks like I'm going to wash. Shit.
I thought they had a field goal like in the first quarter.
Clemson just got a field goal just now. It's 14-3. My numbers on the big board.
Well, I swear earlier they had
7-3. I really wanted to see 7-3. That would have been.
Or they had 3 points in the first quarter.
7-3 is my 7-3 changes everything monetarily for me in all gambling conversation right now.
Goody.
If Tennessee can go down and score a field goal before halftime, 7-3, get paid, and then it goes to halftime at 7-3, I get paid again. And I don't care for anything else that happens. 17-3 final, I would lose my shit. It would be significant sums of winnings for me.
I didn't even tell you who's got the ball.
Well, they just kicked the field goal, so nobody has the ball. Clemson's about to kick off.
So Clemson has the ball. Technically. I don't know. What else is going on, man? What's new? Did you see Ronaldo signed with the Saudis?
I did. Saudis, yeah. Fuck that noise.
It's estimated like $200 million a year. It's like 38. I don't know. If that makes him happy, whatever. He's going to be playing with a bunch of other no-name people.
Well, apparently there's been a couple. Like one of the articles that popped up for me that's like, I had like a news alert. Actually, let's back up. News alert, Pele died. Talking about the memorial.
Yeah.
Pele died yesterday. That's a bummer.
Yeah, I mentioned that to the manager at work. He was like, who? I was like...
Fucking child. You're fired.
Like,
I'm going to go fire him right now.
I was like, well, he was like one of the biggest soccer players.
Like ever.
I was like, he started out playing barefooted, and they were like, nah, sorry, man. Like, you can't play barefoot.
But I want to play barefoot, and I'm good that way.
Yeah, he's like, I'm really good. That's like how I learned. Like, I've been playing barefoot for like the past 20 years.
And then he's dominated with shoes on because he's that fucking good.
I didn't realize that he played in America later in his life.
Did he?
I didn't really think we had much of a soccer league in the 70s or whatever.
But so yeah, I don't. But one of the headlines that popped up when Ronaldo, like when the official Ronaldo signing came out or whatever, the Saudi whatever league, said he did like joins a number of other. Like the headline was, Ronaldo joins a number of other aging stars or something like that going to play in the Saudi league.
It's going to be kind of like that LIV like golf league.
Yeah, which is held on despite. Like, there was a lot of fucking shit going down when that first happened. Like, when Phil Mickelson went over. I mean, there's a lot of issues, like, when in the American culture lens of things, there's a lot of issues with some Middle Eastern shit going on right now. And when you have, I mean, Saudi's got the money, don't get me wrong.
All right.
They got the fucking money, and if Phil Mickelson wants to take that check, I'm not going to fault him for taking that check.
Right, just know that PGA is going to write you off.
Right. And
you make that choice. Yeah. It's your choice.
And that's shitty on the PGA's part too, but it's like it's one of the weirdisms of sports. Like, I'm a very open market, free market. Like,
you're essentially just picking a totally different league and just turning your back on the league that kind of helped you make.
Right, the PGA makes money off of the golfers who play for the PGA. And when you leave and go play for somebody else, you are basically leaving, Ford to go to Dodge. Yeah. For lack of a better way to say it. And I mean, actually, a better way would be like Ford to go to Tucker or, some upstart that's trying to dethrone the king. And when you're the king, you're like, well, fuck you, buddy. And that's what PGA's kind of take on it is. And I don't blame PGA for playing that take. But what I was going to say is, like, we were talking earlier about Ticketmaster and stuff like that. And, like, the need for competition. I mean, you have some of the biggest industries in the world who are competitionless. And we kind of like it that way. The NFL has no real competition. Major League Baseball has no real competition. Major sports in general. PGA has no real competition. This LIV whatever is trying. And they seem to be taking a real whack at it. But, it's a weird spot because it's like I like one of the things with boxing that was always weird that I never understood was you had like 7 world champions at a weight class, or you had a guy that had 7 belts in heavyweight because he beat
the IBC
all these different like sub leagues of boxing, for lack of a better word, and it was very confusing as a spectator. And so we kind of like the unification in sports, but it also has pretty significant business implications. And for the quality of product, not quality of product, the quality of business competition, I guess. Right.
We had, what were they called? The Super League they tried to do in soccer.
Yep, that was a big fucking mess.
Yeah, there's still like 1 or 2 teams that are still trying to like hold on to it, and they're like, dude, like everybody else backed out. Like, I don't know if we can do this Super League. I think FIFA started not really like cutting them off, but like laid it down. I was like, all right, well, if your club team's going to split off from
Right, and they made
UEFA or whatever, like you're not going to be in the Champions League anymore. You're not going to be eligible for any of our major tournaments.
And they made a lot of problems for
like you're going to make your own
players
league, like
and-
you're in your own like country's league.
But that's a great example of the problem. Like, I mean, FIFA is unquestionably corrupt. Like, there's no, I mean, I can't even think of a justification to explain it any other way than FIFA is substantially corrupt, and this Qatar World Cup is a perfect example.
I think you have some that are in it that are definitely influenceable.
Top levels.
I wouldn't say that the organization itself is outright corrupt.
To bring in AC, who's never here and maybe never be here again, this is a definitional conversation. If the top end, to me, my perspective on it at least is, if the top end, the people making the broad stroke decisions, are obviously corrupt, then the entirety of the organization is. Sure, some guy that works way down at the bottom, a referee, some sort of like producer who manages the exchange between teams and the meetings and, and helps put those things in place. That guy might not be corrupt. He might not be paid off. But when the top end of it is fully corrupt and they will take literal direct bribes to make decisions in favor of, for, or against, then the totality of the organization is corrupt.
Well, I mean, even I guess the site choosing of it being Qatar, whatever, that doesn't come down to just like 3 or 4 people. I'd say that's probably 25 to 50 person.
Right, but if 5 or 6 of them took significant bribes and they
right,
and they were the ones,
that's only like 5 out of maybe 30.
But if they have influence over the others, because I mean, when you get into like voting groups like that, with like a board of directors at a company or something like that, there's really 2 or 3 people that are like really the shot callers.
Right.
And everybody else kind of falls in line with the person that more aligns with their kind of concept of it. And so if one guy takes a $100 million bribe and either redivvies that out as a sub-bribe or just goes in and influences the people that he can because he has that influence over those people. Now, in fairness, those people aren't directly corrupt if he doesn't sub-bribe them. But he takes his influence as a little bit higher on the hierarchy of leadership to influence people to follow what he's doing for sake of the bribe. And again, I'm not trying to say that every individual involved in FIFA is, but it is clear that there is a significant corruption issue within FIFA. It's been a conversation for decades.
Again, I've just got to take a little pause of saying it's significant because that's alluding to it being a majority of the organization itself being corrupt. I don't think that is a thing.
I feel like it's enough of the thing that it makes a functional difference to the operation.
What is enough? Like you said, it could be 3 of their board of directors.
But if those 3 can make the changes, if those 3 have the means to influence other portions and parts and pieces to get it to where the buyer of the influence wants it to be, then yeah. I mean, at least as I understand it, I wasn't there. There's been a bunch of different reporting on it, but it seems to me that it is pretty clear that Qatar bought their way into being the host of this World Cup.
Right. I've read a couple stories on that.
All right. So whether they bribed 1 person or 15 people,
I think I sent you the story on it. That, like, one of them had hired like a former like U.S. intelligence agent to go and dig up on dirt on like other people or.
And so whether Qatar bought 1 person off or a dozen people off,
right.
Whether they paid for dirt campaigns or this or that or the other, whatever portion of it is clear that the money part of the game that Qatar put on the table, either through direct influence or indirect smearing and stuff like that, was a significant and known factor to why the FIFA chose Qatar.
Right.
Because everybody involved that's seen things and watched it and been in and around the game for decades cannot for the life of them make heads or tails of why Qatar was picked. It doesn't make any sense. You had to change season. You had to force Premier League and all these different leagues to adjust their season. We had to guarantee this, that, and the other. Like, I mean, the whole alcohol mess. You read those stories, right? You heard about that?
Yeah.
The whole alcohol mess Qatar said, okay, alcohol is not a thing that we really are on board with. That's kind of social no-no for us here. But as part of our willingness to play the game with you guys, we'll allow it. And then we threw the whole fucking thing out the window as soon as it came down to it.
Well, if you paid enough money, you could still do it.
Right. But the idea being, it's like, well, they didn't act in good faith. All this different stuff. So anyway, the whole point of that, bringing that up, is that, like, this LIV golf thing that we were talking about, the idea that the Super League was trying to be like, you know what, FIFA's got problems. We want to come in and sub for them. We want to take over because we're not going to have those same problems that people hate about FIFA. I remember 15 years ago when I didn't, I've always been a passive soccer fan. But I remember 15 years ago, or maybe 16 years ago at that whatever World Cup that was, remember hearing a bunch of stories about corruption issues and bribery and stuff inside FIFA. It's not a new concept.
South Korea, Japan games?
Maybe. I don't remember. I just remember like when all this different shit came out about Qatar, it was like, this isn't new. It wasn't new to my head that FIFA was a corrupt organization.
Right. I mean, it's been an ongoing issue. Like, not to downplay what happened in Qatar, but I mean, it happens in the Olympics. It happens in any major thing, and I'd say there's probably a little bit of that, and even in the U.S. deciding where the World Series is going to be held.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
well, no, the World Series is a fixed answer. It's a structural answer.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
No, Super Bowl.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Where the Super Bowl is going to be held, or
I was trying to cut
different stuff like that.
Yeah. I kind of appreciate how how baseball does that, is that it's a fixed answer.
Yeah.
But it's because it's a serious sport. Like any of the
how much
sports,
I give a shit about baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right. Yeah. So it's where the Super Bowl's held, or bowl games.
Sports ball.
Even bowl games are held.
And I still like. I will still say it. That maybe that's what I should put on my my New Year's resolution list, is to get Knoxville to host a bowl game next year.
Apparently, Nashville getting to host I think they're doing the All-Star game and the draft for 2023. Sorry, it's going to be the NHL awards.
Okay.
In Nashville.
Like, I was guessing that you were saying hockey, but
sorry, yeah.
I was like, in what sport?
Sorry.
Didn't they did that? Didn't Nashville have the?
But this is like the first time in like 50 years. No, we had I think we had the draft here.
Okay.
Wait. What was that? Yeah, we had something at Bridgestone not long ago.
Tell you what, if you ask around in the political circles, Nashville is not happy. Not Nashville. Republicans are not happy with Nashville.
Really?
But
oh no,
for things they wouldn't host.
Oh.
They would not host
the RNC. Yeah.
I love the dichotomy of it. I really do.
Boo-hoo.
I love the dichotomy of it. It's very interesting. The idea of how liberal Nashville is as a city, and as the capital of the state, that is super conservative. Like, it's very fascinating to me. Like, I'm curious how it's going to pan out, especially as we grow. Especially as Nashville grows, but especially as the state does, too. I don't know. Like, I don't, like... to go back to politics for a little bit, I just, like... I'm very hopeful. Like, I mean, to move on and to look into the future thing, like 23, I'm very hopeful that this 24 national election cycle is going to really put some pressure on the parties, or we have some other parties that have some real productive outcomes. I don't see a way. I like. We could talk about all the things that they're trying to do to get Trump to not be able to run again and stuff like that. I don't see a way that Trump's not running again. I don't see a way they're going to stop him. Because everything that they're doing to try to stop him is only turning up the fervor of the people that want him there.
It's stoking his base, but I think it's yet to be seen how much the establishment party, I guess, essentially will continue to back him. So I think after the previous midterm elections, what some people have said, that a lot of the quote-unquote, Trump candidates didn't fare well.
I agree.
And that's
I
one
agree.
thing that the RNC is going to look at. It's like, hey,
I agree.
is it worth us promoting these people that, hey, that's cool that they say they still back Trump, but their track record isn't making us look good. It's not gaining us seats. It's not gaining us power.
I do. I agree. I think there's a true, clear delineation that there is, if it's not actually Trump,
Yeah, because
they're
apparently
not winners.
I saw a couple of like different stats that basically like the Democrats have done like the best they've done in an election cycle in the past like 20, 30 years. As far
Right.
as I think they went
On-
down to
on-
like
on a
governorship and
It is
kind of other parties.
This midterm, again, going to our year in review part of it, this midterm was significantly atypical.
Yeah.
And
But like typically, yeah.
the argument is the atypicalness is because of Trump style, Trumpish, Trumplican, whatever you want to call them, candidates. Herschel Walker being a good example. Dr. Oz being another one of the examples. Those candidates being such bad candidates, any other Republican, any normal-ish Republican would have won those races, is what the rule, like what the
I don't know about the Oz
general
one.
feel is.
'Cause I think he had enough public, just like repertoire in general, that he stood to win that race.
I don't think so.
I don't think as many people aligned him with Trump.
He was very...
I mean, he was
wasn't
Oprah's
super
doctor
Trumpy.
for the
Right.
longest time. Like he had name exposure.
Right, but he wasn't super Trumpy in that sense, but he was Trump back.
So I don't think he didn't get elected just because of Trump.
Well, because he's not a Pennsylvanian. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
He's a New Jerseyan. New Jerseyan? What's a person from New Jersey?
New Jerseyite.
Hey, it's Joey. That's what it is. It's Joey from New Jersey.
Joe.
What is... I know you hate when I ask full questions.
I think pretty sure it's New Jersey.
Person from New Jersey called New Jerseyans.
Yeah.
You make fun of me for asking, like, putting full sentences in.
Right.
Every time it gives us the answer.
Well, I forget that Google has evolved from like the early years of actual trying to put
My
in
favorite-
like search results.
My favorite, as always, is Michigan. Michigan's my favorite person.
Michiganders.
Michiganders is my favorites. Always has been. Just because it's a little different. It's got a little different feel to it. Because everybody else is like Floridian, New Jerseyan, Montanan, Californian.
I think we went Vermont call themselves like Vermonsters.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There was a podcast.
What's Mennonites?
That's a good question. There's a podcast that I used to listen to.
Mainers.
That one of the guys that hosts, he would always call Canadians Canuckistanis. I always thought that was great. People who live in Maine are called Mainers or Downeasters. Oh, here's a list of... All right, let's follow this. Let's follow this little rabbit hole for a second. All right, a list of residents' nicknames: Alabama, Alabamans or Alabamians, Alaskans,
Arkansasers?
yep, Arizonians or Arizonans,
Well, this is still nicknames. I don't know if it's actual names.
Californians or Californiacs. I like Californiacs, like maniacs or some sort of crazies. Coloradoans, Connecticut's or Nutmeggers.
Connecticuters?
Connecticuters, yeah, or Nutmeggers. Delawareans, Floridians, or Floridans. I've never heard that one. Georgians, Hawaiians. I'm not even going to try to pronounce in that. Illinoisans, Hoosiers, or Indiana, but Indianers or Indianans. Iowans and Hawkeyes. Jayhawks or Kansans. Kentuckians, Kentuckiers.
Kentuckyites?
Kentuckyites, Louisianans, Marylandians, Massachusettsans, and Bay Staters, Michiganders, or Michiganites, Mississippians, Missourians, Nebraskans, Granite Staters for New Hampshire, or New Hampshireites. Anyway, that was a fun rabbit hole dive down ridiculousness. But anyway, I'm hopeful as a third party advocate that the Trump Biden rematch is going to put I still think a Trump or Biden's going to win, but I think we're going to see a significant third party push. I'm hopeful
I think if we're able to get ranked choice voting brought in more, we may see more of that. But I would think with the system that we have set up now, you're still just going to see Republicans and Democrats.
I think
because I think it's going to take more people seeing that there is that third party option.
I think that it'll take a strong. It'll be very dependent on how the economic landscape is come 24, come election time, on whether.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see a major push on third parties making a big cut into.
If we make an economic bounce back and things are really looking up economically speaking, people are making more money, affordability goes up, all that kind of stuff, Biden wins walking away. But if we're still in this, if the U.S. economics is still where we are right now, and it's truly a Biden who we blame for things that he may not have had anything to do with, gas is still $4 or $5, or goes up to $3, $4, $5 a gallon, whatever it is. If all that shit is in play and it's expensive to live still, if inflation is still up and all those kind of things going up, if the economics is questionable, if we have this recession that is likely. And it's like, fuck, I can't vote for Biden. Because whether it's accurate or not, I'm blaming all this shit on Biden. Fuck, I don't want to vote for Trump. Who else is on here? That's my hope. Is that it's the who else is on here. Anybody but. Like there's the joke. Like, you've seen the signs. Like, people make the yard signs. Some sort of monkey. I don't give a shit. Anybody but these two morons.
Right.
Like anybody but. And if any of the other parties have a decent candidate they can put up, and especially early on in the election cycle, and some of the primary shit in the major parties gets real nasty, and some of the third parties can coalesce around one and really push it and really get some financing together and really get some national attention on it, I'm hopeful that we have like a 15-20% turnout for a third party, or combined turnout for a couple of third party candidates.
I don't think we're going to be looking at those numbers.
I think the door's open, and it's a question. You're not wrong. I get where you're coming from.
Well, I think they've been hovering at like 3 to 4% at tops.
Oh yeah, I think,
and that was in like good election races as far as like Nader when he ran, Perot when he ran.
Right.
Like major, like national recognition.
Right.
Third party
candidates. Joe Jorgensen pulled 1.5% for the Libertarians in the 22. Which is not good. I mean, it's actually decent for historically speaking, but it's not good in what we're saying. And I don't disagree with you. But I don't know. Like, I just think there's enough people who fancy themselves Republicans who can't bring themselves to vote for Trump. Again, like my dad being an example. First time my dad didn't vote for the Republican for president was this last election. Like, he voted for Trump the first time. And I'd have to double check and ask him. I guess he voted for Biden. I don't know the answer to that question.
It's true. May just left it blank.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't see. And again, this is my weird view of the world. I don't see the Democrats in any better shape. Biden and Trump are not the same person at all. They're not the same candidates at all. They're not the same political figures at all. But they're both the best example of the worst thing we could put up.
Yeah, I'd rather see both of them not run.
Right. That's what exactly. I guess it was last week. Yeah, last week I talked to Little Man for a little bit, and then I did a little bit on by myself, and it's like I posed the question. It's like, find me anybody who actually wants a Biden-Trump rematch. The only person that's going to say, I want a Biden-Trump rematch is going to be a super Trump person who thinks that Biden is weak and Trump will beat him, or a super Biden person who thinks, Trump is weak and Biden's the only person that can take Trump out. And it's just it's so painfully like fucking Christ Almighty, people. We've got to stop accepting this as okay. We've got to stop accepting, because who else? The problem is what, Ron DeSantis? He's not any fucking better. What, we got Beto or Buttigieg?
I don't think either one of them would go for
president. I mean, that's the thing though. That's the other part of the conversation to me. It's like, okay, if we don't have the Trump Biden rematch, if you get what you want, which is neither.
Who made it far in the last one? Kamala and I guess Buttigieg.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one thing. What people want less than Biden anybody is Kamala anybody. I think Kamala is lower on the list of people who anybody wants to run for president, less than Biden. Like if I was going to make a list of Democrats, the very bottom of that list would be Biden Harris.
I think she did well in the pre-whatever.
I don't know.
Recalling the run-up to the Democratic nomination.
I don't know.
Primaries.
The primaries?
Yeah, primaries.
In Iowa?
I was going to call it preliminaries, but yeah, primaries.
I don't think she... I don't recall her doing particularly well. I mean, Tulsi put her to task.
I know she wasn't one of the first to drop out. I think she made it down to the final 3 or 4 before...
Like, Tulsi put the beat down on her, but, Tulsi, nobody likes Tulsi.
Yeah.
Tulsi dropped out of the party. Thank you, Tulsi. Where'd you hear this? Kristen Sinema dropped the party?
Saw that. There was somebody else that was talking about it.
Which, again, this is what's... I'm hopeful for this. Like, Kristen Sinema's a shitbag. Don't get me wrong. She's a complete shitbag. But I'm hopeful... Like, the play that she's made here is genius. Genius, the play that she made by leaving the party.
I think it was Manchin.
Manchin?
Ed kind of asked about it. He hasn't said one way or the other.
No. But, like, genius play that Sinema did. But either way, like, people leaving the party... Like, Manchin left the party because she's a fucking evil genius. Tulsi left the party because she's actually a decent human being. Because of the way she sees the party moving, she doesn't want to be part of that. Where Sinema left the party because she figured that's the best way that she's going to keep that seat. It's fucking genius. Because she's running as independent, and in the dumbass way that the parties are protecting themselves, just like here in Tennessee, independent runs unopposed in a primary. There's no independent primary. And so you put Kristen Sinema, who has base in Arizona, on a 3-way ballot against a Democrat and a Republican. Who's guaranteed to lose is the Democrat. Who's most likely to win is the Republican. But if you're the Democratic Party in Arizona, what do you do? Do you run somebody as the Democrat knowing they're going to lose? Who do you get to run? Like, what do you do there? It is literally a play for her to keep her seat as a corporate Democrat that she is, but not being a Democrat. Yeah, she's like that. Like her whole thing. Like that's her whole thing. Everything that she's done as a Democrat, or not everything, like everything that she's held up, like bill wise and all that kind of stuff. Everything that she's played her hand because she figured out where she sits and she is a key voter kind of deal. All of that was based on mostly like Wall Street ties stuff. Her donors, the moneymaker stuff, not Arizonans by any means, but she was in a position to control votes.
Yeah, so I didn't hear much about her.
Yeah, it was her and what's his face from West Virginia. Those are the
Manchin.
two. Yeah, those are the two Democrats that kept holding stuff up.
Right.
Because they figured out that we are so close and we are tie-breaking numbers kind of shit. And I'm not beholden to the party that way. I'm going to be beholden to the donors.
They're both in, I guess, semi-swing states as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Manchin, he's got more of a Republican stronghold of it being coal country. So he doesn't want to turn his back on them.
Right. Which I mean, I guess that's a good thing in the whole sense if you're actually responded. But he's always been big business interest too.
I mean, Kristen Sinema is just another one of those like weird Western states that, kind of like we are here in Tennessee, that you have Democratic strongholds in the major cities, but outside of them, the rural areas,
right?
It's all straight Republican.
They have a major city.
Yeah, so percentage of like
they have a major city that's like half their population, and then the rest of their population is rural Republicans.
Right.
And she's a Democrat. She ran as a Democrat, and whatever. I don't know. It's a shit show. We keep running this. I'm curious.
I mean, it's just the political game of trying to garner the most votes, but trying to appeal to the widest margin of your constituents. You've got to concede certain things to.
See, I think Sinema's smarter than that. I think Sinema knows that it's not about either of those. It's about making sure her donors are happy, and that's how she keeps winning.
Right? Yeah, you definitely have that dichotomy as well.
And her donors aren't her. Apparently, a significant amount of her donors aren't even in Arizona.
Well, and that's why a lot of politicians feel like they can kind of snuff their constituents.
Right.
Because they're making the people that are keeping them in office happy.
Right, because they're not their constituents.
Right.
Say it again.
Well, some of the corporate entities are their quote-unquote constituents.
It should be a number, right?
What do you mean?
Number of people, constituents. A business is one constituent. A resident is one constituent. Which do you have more of? Who's got more money? The corporate one.
Right, but you also have people that work for that company that could be encouraged to vote one way or the other as well.
I would like to be in that spot. Actually, we are in that spot. We've done that a few times. We're not vote-wise. I've never told you guys who to vote for as employees.
Right.
But I have said, hey, for our business interest, it's important that this thing does or does not pass.
Right.
Call these people.
Yeah, that was nothing we ever got to vote upon. We could reach out to our...
No. Which, I mean, again, so, I don't know. So let's spend a couple of minutes. Let's talk about next year. Like, what do we want next year to be?
2023.
Personal, political, whatever you want. Give me a New Year's resolution, hope for. It doesn't have to be a resolution per se, but like, what do you want to see next year? What would make you?
I like to keep my hopes and expectations low, just so they can exceed my lower expectations.
See, all right, so that's great because I was thinking about that. I was literally thinking about exactly that.
It can't go down.
I was literally thinking about exactly that today because I was thinking about so the Compass guys for their show. They're like, we want to do a little segment on New Year's resolutions, and they asked me to be part of the show and put mine on it. They've asked a couple times, whatever. And so, like, I was thinking about that all day, and it's like, I've done New Year's resolutions 1,000 times and all that kind of shit. And one of the takes on New Year's resolution is, you make the New Year's resolution, everybody fails all the time, blah blah blah.
Right.
And so, like, I was thinking about it in fuck, how do I say this? Like, I get where you're coming from in the idea of keep the target low, and you can feel good about winning.
Right.
And as I was thinking about it, it's like I would rather put a lot of targets out there.
It depends on your mindset. I mean, if you want to set your aspirations high, you're going to achieve a lot more. If you're always trying to exceed what you're trying to accomplish, you're going to accomplish more than you expected. So, I mean, there definitely is that benefit of having that high expectations, but you have to have the mentality and realization and not get discouraged by you not reaching that ultimate goal, but having the satisfaction of knowing that you almost got there and you bettered yourself in the process.
Right. I want to make a big list, and I want to hit 5 of 20.
Right.
Instead of making a list of 3 and hitting 1.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. Like, I want to make a big list. I want, I want a lot of things, and it's an ambition. I guess that's the way to look at it. It's like I'm an ambitious person. I want a lot of things this year. And number 1 on that is going to happen. Because it might happen next week, to be honest. But I want a lot of things to happen. and some of them are ridiculous, and I know it. But I want to make a big list because I think to me I would rather fail trying than not try. I would rather hope than wait. And I think that's one of those things I feel like I'm crazy on because I don't think that's normal. There's a lot of things about me that I think is normal. That's not one of them. Like I want to fail trying. I want to like there's part of me that I know I'm going to fail on. Like I want engagement. Like one of my goals, like the goal I set on the Compass show today. Releases tomorrow for you guys. If you haven't checked it out, CompassKnox.com, the Compass Points podcast. It's on all your major podcast providers. Check it out. Because I wanted to keep it topical to them. It's like, or to their audience's expectation of me, I guess, is what I was trying to keep it topical to them. Is I want more shows. I want to produce more shows. I want a Tyler Givens show. I want a Betty Bean show. I want a Kyle Ward show. I want right and left. I want to do a bunch of different shows in here. I want a bunch of different people to come in here, not on my show, but have their own shows. And then I want to do like monthly get-togethers where we have 2 or 3 or 4 of my different shows come together and we do like a collab show where we're all talking to each other about all the different shit that's going on. Because I want engagement.
Right.
I want Knoxville, Knox County people to give a shit about what's going on here. And I know that's a huge ask. Not just for my professional interest of my production company kind of shit. And I do want to do that because I want to make some money off that and I want to make this more fun and more engaging and more big and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, just like we were talking about a Trump-Biden re-election, I don't want that anymore. I'm done with that. And on the grand scheme of things, I don't give a shit. It's national stuff. It's not that big a fucking deal. I want the big deal to matter. I want the new. I want this mayoral race that's coming up between whoever runs against and Kincannon. I want to know the ins and outs of it. I want all sorts of different people's takes on who's running for what and why and who's in there and what are they going to do and what can they actually do. You know, because that's like one of the things that as we've done this, we were 2 years in, like we started almost 2 years ago,
something like that.
You know, 240 something episodes we're working on right now, whatever it is. The same questions are still on the table for me. What can they do? What do they do? How does this make a difference to me and you in our day to day life? I want more of that shit going on as things progress. I want to see. I want to be a part of it. I want to make a difference on it, but I want more people trying to make a difference on it. Like realistically, like I watch all these people and I'm in it. There's I feel like there's 7 of us. I'm not out there trying to actively change anything. That's part of, but like just trying to spectate on the people that are. There's 7 people that are really active all the time. They're pitching fits and doing all that kind of shit
that you see.
True, but the 7 people that are orchestrating people. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. That are pushing for and doing whatever. And I don't know. I want to feel like that Mayor Jacobs was responding to me and that stupid me that I talk about all the time. Not me personally, but that there is actually a response to that. Like, I mean, you know, they take the seat and they do what they want to do with the seat. It doesn't ever seem like it's like, I took the seat because you asked me to take the seat.
Right.
You know, Cal Penn, Harold and Kumar. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Anyway, actor. He took, after Harold and Kumar, he was an aide in the Obama administration. Like he took a sabbatical from acting to go work in D.C. for a while because he wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And he was on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, and they were talking about it, and it's like that's what it was supposed to be. Public service was supposed to be a break from you stopped doing this, you stepped in here to be part of and help out. Like I want to see the breakdown. I want the breakdown in the negative sense, the taken apart of. the destruction of the career politician. I want to see the public servant return. I want to see the return of the people that take a break from their normal life to go in and work for their community.
Right.
And when they're done, they go back to their normal life. They don't
use it as a stepping stone. Yeah.
Right. This isn't the first step into the machine. You know, which Mayor Jacobs is part of the machine. Cannon, in her own way, is a part of the machine. It doesn't matter. It's a left or right issue. It doesn't fucking matter. I want to see the breakdown of that machine. And it's this is a 2 decades ask that I know I'm working on. But I think I feel like, and maybe this is my crazy point of view that I throw out all the time, but I feel like we're on the edge of that. I feel like Trump, love him or hate him, started that process. I think Trump started that process because I think Trump only got elected because people were done with the machine. And then he played the machine the most obnoxious way possible. And then we had a Biden win and beat him because it didn't matter who it was. Anybody we could put up, they could beat him. And so that was the return to the machine. And Biden is not a good version of anything. So in the national and the local and all that, like, I'm hopeful that this is the beginnings of the destruction of the machine. That's what I want to see. I want to see this thing breaking down and falling apart. I want to see it come back to being more about you and your neighbors and how you interact with your neighbors and how you and your neighbors use government to encourage and empower yourselves for your lives. That's what I want to see in the big grandest picture of it. And I think I'm hopeful that we're at the precipice of that. That's my hope. That what I see the beginnings of in the tiniest little ways, that little ember starts to grow into a bit of an actual fire.
That's possible.
That's what I'm hopeful for. So let's break it down a little more personal. Let's get right down to me and you. What do you got for 23? What do you want?
Got no high aspirations.
What are your goals, man? Come on.
I got
Give me something.
I got no aspirational goals.
Quit your job and do something. Start a thing.
Sure.
I got your back, bro. What do you want? What do you want to do? Whatever it is.
Enjoy playing music.
Yeah? I'm going to back that. I need to get back that. I'd like to get back that, too. I've been seriously eyeballing some electronic drums.
It's one of the few things that I get like a shit-eating grin, smile on my face, like doing.
Yeah. I miss practicing.
I was showing people, or should someone turn the lights down? A song we used to play, and I was like, I miss playing this song. They're like, why do you miss playing that song?
Because it's dirty.
And I was like, it was just fun to play.
It's accidental, like what?
I was like, it was just a swanky, like little love song that got a little dirty and grindy into it too. Yeah,
and a little dirty and a little accidental electrical failure was part of the song. I'll give Josh that.
Electrical
Josh had
failure.
Like we were fucking around with that song, practicing one night, and his music stand light turned off like in the middle of it. I don't know if like something got flicked or whatever. That's where they turn the lights off.
Oh,
do you not remember that?
No.
God, I was hammered and fucked up for most of it.
I remember like one of the first times was like we played it. I think there was a couple of like ladies over and they're like, "Hey, like play something sexy," and started playing like a little swanky bass line, and the song just kind of like came out of it.
Yeah, that for any drummers out there, that is that is how bad I am at anything swing.
Yeah, the only recording, or one of the few recordings I have of it, is
the live one.
There's a couple of live ones. Or there was one of us like playing down in his basement.
Yeah.
I think it might have been. I don't think it wasn't the first time we had played it because somebody asked like right at the very end of it's on Facebook. Somebody's there like, "Oh, like, what do you guys call it?" Like, "Oh, yeah, it's called like Turn the Lights Down." But I think at that time it was still like relatively new.
Oh fuck! I could like that's like as a musician, air quotes, of myself. I feel like I could play anything right now that I've ever played.
It would take me a second. I could
get close.
Play most, yeah.
I couldn't play it perfectly. Like I think about one and all the time.
That one, yeah, I wouldn't be able to.
Like we couldn't play it when we did.
Yeah, I could barely play it when we did.
But I think about the transition that I wrote into that song, and how simply easy it actually is, and how hard it is to actually pull off.
Sounded simple.
Right. Well, I mean, the math's there. It's like, as a drummer, it's all math. You know, like I was trying to think about, like, you know, how to count. Like, everything's how to count. That's all percussion is. It's how to count. How do you count it? And if you count a 4/4 bar as 2 3s and a 2, well, take the 2 off the end, and now you're in a 6/8 bar. That was the whole idea of the transition. And as simple as that statement I just made sounds, it's really hard to do, because you feel, there's so much feel in while you're playing in 4/4 that even though it's a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, it's hard to go 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. It's like, wait, hold on, where'd that 1 2 go? Like, you're so used to that 1 2 being there. So you want to play more? That's the general idea of the statement.
That would be one aspiration, I guess.
Okay, I can get that.
I mean, more than I normally do.
I want.
I bought an acoustic bass just simply for the fact so I wouldn't have to like plug into my amp anymore just to play.
Yeah.
For a little while, I got back into it, but I haven't picked it up in probably, at least a couple of weeks now.
My drums have been stacked in that corner. Like, I got them back from Josh's house,
right,
for no reason at all, other than I just wanted to get my possessions back.
Mine's a little bit easier to play by myself than yours, like setting up a whole like drum set. Right.
Well, and it's a space issue.
I guess you got to take mine out of a case and put it on my lap.
That's what I was saying. I've been eyeballing an electric set for a while. I'm trying to get, like,
I mean, I'd say at this point now, I mean, in like the 80s, I would question this a lot more.
Oh, they're good. They're real good now.
Yeah. They get pretty damn good, like, actually detecting, like, how hard you're actually hitting them to changing the actual tone of a hi-hat or whatever.
Well, and it's also where in the drum, like dead center.
Yeah, it's actually got, like, rim shots and shit like that into it, too.
They're good now. But, I've been eyeballing for a while. So
it's still not the same.
When I can, when we get a studio standalone, when the podcast has its own studio, there will absolutely be a drum set rock and roll studio in that room as well. I will make that a subset of my professional skill set. Not really. I don't give a fuck. I'm not trying to record any bands. But I've got a bunch of stuff. I do. Like, I have the generic. I need to lose some weight this year. I need to start working out again. I start exercising a little bit.
I'm getting a little belly myself.
I need to get on that kind of shit. I really want a couple more shows. I want more podcasts. I want more engagement locally. I want this production studio to be a thing. I want it to be a channel at large. But I don't want it to be a fucking CNN or a Fox. I want it to be both. And what's actually in the middle. Locally. I want to quit my day job. That was probably going to happen really fast. Like, really, really, really soon. Like, next week, probably. I'm really fucking done with it. I got so much. I mean, we got so much shit going on the shop right now. It doesn't really make sense to not, And I want to get the fuck out of here. I want to go. I want to travel. Not super travel, but I just want to go. Then that's part of the day job part too. Is like I just want to be able to go. Like, you know what? We're out of here. I want my piece of land. That's another one. I want to find some like Anderson County or Jefferson County or some neighboring county, and I want to get like 20 acres. And I want to start building my fucking hunting resort. And say, hey kids, we're going with a piece of land. We're going to go ride our 4-wheelers and do other fucking random shit and get the fuck out of here. So that's on my list of shit to do, people. Tennessee's 14-3. We just started the second half. I don't have anything else. I do. Happy New Year, everybody. Be safe. Be careful. That whole shit.
Be good to each other. Yeah,
let's make this year better. Let's make this year like that. Like, I don't know. For city voters, which I am not, let's vote on people, not on parties, even though it's city elections. It's not parties anyway. But let's start that trend. Let's make that the thing. Vote for a person, not a party. All right, y'all. That's 2022 in a nutshell-ish, sort of. I don't know how many stories we probably really missed, but 2022 was a thing, and we did it, and we were part of it. And You were too. So let's hope you're part of all of 23, and we're going to be part of all of 23 too. So stick around, and we're going to keep doing what we do. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. The Voter Guide 23 will be coming soon. Tell your friends about us. Help us out. Go to Compass Knox page, Compass Points Podcast. Check them out. And look out for future Barbarian Productions podcasts. So we're going to keep doing what we do. So anyway, Almost Agreement, everybody. Thanks for listening. Happy New Year.